I think I'm live now. Hi, I am just doing this real quick to let Danny know that she is to drop the guidelines down here. So I'm the very first comment. I want to make sure that everybody sees the guidelines. I just said drop them, or actually drip them, and I'm going to go ahead and let that stand, Danny. Drip those guidelines in the comments. Hey everybody, here I am, the official uniform of Lace on Race. Well, actually, it's the official uniform of, what do you call it? The coronavirus. I think that I have spent 98% of the coronavirus in a camisole on the coronavirus couch. I think if the days I wear real things, people kind of go, wow, where are you going? Are you going to meet Michelle Obama? No. And even if I did meet Michelle Obama, I'd still have a camisole, a nice blazer, but still a camisole. It's what they're for. Anywho, I have spent, and I am going to reduce this because I actually did what I normally don't do, which is to make, there we go, which is to make a couple of notes. For a while now, I found myself spending more and more time on other websites and pages, group pages, my friends and their friends as personal pages, and I have seen how those spaces work. I have left some of those spaces downright shaken. I have felt very unsafe. I have felt that it was volatile and that it was impossible, or actually, it's never impossible. It is possible for either facilitators or group owners or my friends' friends to control the space, to make sure that it didn't get out of control. It is possible to have a conversation about anything, but you can't just say it any old way. And you can't just say it out of relational context. You can't just drop verbal Molotov cocktails and expect for things to go well. One of the reasons that we are insistent, and I do mean insistent, upon relational ethics and how we live with each other in the day-to-day is because I'm minimizing this. I actually need both of the computers up right now because this is crazy. Okay, I have too many tabs open. If I only had a few tabs, it would be a lot easier. But one of the things about researching and writing and reading is that I have about 80 tabs open. And the girls on staff kind of go, I can't believe you live like this. Yep, I do. So, but when I need to find something, it gets a little discouraging. But here we are. We have got to be different from the sites that I have seen. And for the last 6 months or so now, believe it or not, it's been 6 months since we had that influx. It has sometimes been a struggle to make the space and keep the space as safe as it needs to be as we walk with each other through lumpy crossings. And there's always been something that kept me from doing a deep dive and a revisiting into the guidelines themselves. We wrote the guidelines. I think we started drafting them in January of this year, and we actually codified them and had them laid out in March. And I'm going to own it. I was somewhat reticent about really pushing them at first. It's like, hey, here they are. I hope you read them. I hope you heed them. It's for the safety and continued health of the space. And a lot of people just didn't. There were a lot of reasons for that, and we need to talk about that. One, there's actually a pin post that speaks to this. To heed my guidelines is to heed me. Can we just tell the truth about that? And most people, regardless of how they identify themselves racially or ethnically, have not been under the leadership of Black women in any sort of durable way. And so quite a bit of the, no, I didn't read the guidelines, or I read them, but, or yes, I believe in the guidelines, and then I will adhere to them, and then they don't. And then when they're called on it and reminded of the commitment they made, they blow up, shut down, or run away. That is unfortunate. But we have seen it happen. We specifically saw it happen a lot during the influx and also during the Jim and Kate brouhaha and the Mishegoss that was and is the Christian left. People came into our space not in alignment with our shared ethos, and in fact, in direct conflict with our shared ethos. I go back and look at those threads. I go back and I look at those conversations, and I'm two things actually. One, I'm really impressed by and large, was and is really impressed by how well we comported ourselves. I look and see who was problematic, who brought the conversation back to a relational level, and very rarely during that time, I can count with two fingers on one hand the times when we walked back our relational ethics stance, when one of our community did. But there were new people who were and are lurkers who got a very contradictory idea of how we are here, what we feel is safe here, and that's a big deal. It's particularly a big deal when we talk about, don't want that, when we talk about what it means for us to be good actors. And a lot of times people kind of go, well, does it matter if we're good actors? Oh, yeah, it absolutely does matter that we are good actors and that we are people worth listening to and that we're a community worth protecting. Do you guys remember a few months ago when I did the mask on? I wish I had a mask here on the coronavirus couch. The masks are never for you, or not only for you. When I mask up, I'm masking up for the cashier at Albertsons. I'm masking up for the lady who sells me gas. I'm gassing up. I'm masking up for my parents. I'm masking up for the really nice lady who brought me the Mexican food 2 nights ago. Thank you. It was awesome. And she stayed safe. The guidelines are our metaphorical mask to keep everybody safe here. And I want to talk a little bit about those guidelines. They are neither arbitrary nor ad hoc. I didn't just sit here with a bunch of jujubes and an orange soda. Okay, actually, I did have the jujubes and the orange soda, but there was still thoughts behind it. Diet orange soda for anyone who's keeping score, in case anybody has Kaiser on speed dial. They are certainly not a tool for control. And I need to say this. Part of it is because of my designation as charlatan cult leader. Everyone looked at the guidelines and basically said, it's a tool for manipulative control. Okay, really? But okay. We'll talk later about how whenever people have a problem or do not want to take responsibility or own their behavior or live out the ethos and our North Star, they resort to cult. And I'd like to thank Jim and Kate and the Christian left for opening that door and making it so that that is people's first line of offense. But going back to the guidelines, it's not about control. It's about safety, it's about depth, and it's about internalization. The guidelines are living in a living document. Those bullet points that you see are based upon what I and my staff and our leadership team have seen in terms of what we can expect in behavior, what we want to see, and what we want a little bit less of. We are different than other spaces out there. And it's not just about how you say it, but who you are when you come into this space. And a lot of people would say, well, that's true. You are different from other spaces. You have fewer issues. Even the issues that we have had, the big ones, I mean, usually outside of, getting a cease and desist letter, but that has nothing to do with the guidelines. But if they had read the cease and desist letter, if they had read the guidelines, there probably wouldn't have been a cease and desist letter. But I digress yet again. It's true that we have fewer issues than other spaces. Even our worst actors are not all that bad. We have had our Jim and Kates, we have had the Christian left, but in 2.5 years, we've done pretty well. Our biggest issue is with reliability, otherwise known as churn, and we talk about that in the guidelines, as well as people who cannot own, who feel a deep sense of shame for something that they wrote, or a deep sense of hostility, misplaced or not, and they delete or they erase. But those are relatively small Molotov cocktails being thrown into my living room. All of this is directly because of the guidelines, all of which is because we can see problematic things at the beginning and can say, have you read the guidelines? It's important that we all do. I go back and reread them, not just because they need revision, but also because I need to remind myself of who I am, who I'm choosing to be when I'm in this space. And let me tell you, it is going to get deeper and harder. When we start the mentoring program that I am so excited about, and we already have our leadership team on deck to be able to mentor in a good, strong way to all of you, learning how to speak well, not just in this space, not just in this rehearsal space, not just in this lab, but outside as well. And also leadership team being mentored by staff who's being mentored by me, and everyone gets to mentor me because there should be someone above this head. We have tried to make the guidelines firm yet flexible, and those of you who have been around since March of last year, will see some definite changes in the guidelines. Not necessarily the guidelines themselves, but the emphasis that we place on certain elements of the guidelines. We try to make it, we absolutely do make it with the North Star firmly in mind. So when you are looking at those elements, when you're looking at the bullet points, ask yourself, is this bullet point in alignment with the North Star, which is, everybody say it all together, 1, 2, 3, lessening and mitigating the harm endured by Black and Brown people, perpetuated by white people. If it is in alignment with that, if it is helping our community to become more able to hold our own hand, more able to walk across lumpy crossings, more able for people to stay in the game and engage, both with me and with their fellow walkers, then it's well worth it. As I retire, because this is officially, wait a minute, wait for it, the 9th day or 8th day. It's been about a week because my last day of work, because it was 2.5 hours of cleaning out my desk and listening to people flap their jaws. And I want to talk to you guys about that in another video because I left activated. But so my first day of county retirement was last Friday. It is the 8th day of my being officially retired. And wow, it's amazing. I'm grateful. I am working every bit as hard. I have to remind myself, oh, I have to eat the leftover spaghetti. It won't eat itself. So I find myself having to get off of the coronavirus couch. Let me tell you, just as an aside, it is as much work setting up for retirement as it is anything else. I thought I was just going to be able to be here and live a life of leisure, eating bonbons on the coronavirus couch, typing a little bit, and then basically just sitting here going, this is the next 20 years. That is not how it is planned out. Let me tell you, I have been quite busy. I I resent it a little bit. I am supposed to be able to just sit back for at least an hour a day and go, I'm retired. I can do what I want. And what I want right now is to read a book and eat a payday, only half of a payday for anyone who's listening from Kaiser. Forget the payday. Eat celery and read a book. Shh. But I'm here in this space a lot. Not just in other spaces, but I'm here in Lace on Race a lot, and it's gonna get even more depth defying, believe me. I'm gonna be here more and more and more, even more than I was. And it is so important on a very personal level that I love my house, that I want to come into my house. I want to lean in and run to and cleave and look forward to being here. I think one of the hardest parts of the summer, and we're going to talk about this too, in terms of how easy it was to find a common enemy. So I'm going to re-listen to this because I've already said that there's 2 videos or 2 essays on the horizon about issues that I'm bringing up today, and then I totally forget. But one of the things that I do want to talk about is having a common enemy. And I'm going to talk about it more. But one of the things that made things a little easier for us in the summer, made it easier for some of us to cleave more, made lurkers more willing to come and be looky-loos as they saw all the drama going down, is that we had a common enemy. And when everything died down, because we refused to give it any more oxygen, I mean, really, we have stuff to do. There's an election in less than 4 days, and it occurred to me that we need to keep our house in order. So we had the summer of Jim and Kate, and then the Christian left, and then me preparing for retirement, and now here I am retired. We need to pay attention to our own house, to our own kitchen table, to our own living room. We need to make sure that we are feeding each other French fare, which means we need to take a look at our own refrigerator now and again and clear out stuff that's spoiled or expired. That's kind of what the guidelines do. Do you see where I'm going with this? I want to make sure that you are eating healthy, nourishing food, and the way to do it is to revisit those guidelines. I want to give you a taste, just a small taste, of what we're going to be doing in the coming months, which is why everyone needs to have the guidelines inculcated and internalized. We're going to be doing that mentoring. I know that most of you are going, am I sure I want to get mentored? It's like the short answer is yes. We're going to have a limited number at first, though, but you need to be ready for that. When we talk about mentoring, another way of talking about it is chef's table, which is where people who are being mentored and are mentoring and sustainers will be. It is going to be a requirement that if you want to be part of Chef's Table, that you will have read and agreed and signed off on every element of the guidelines. One of my small but real frustrations has been when people have said yes to the guidelines. They read the Penn Post and they kind of just scroll and roll through them. It takes them 3 minutes. I've agreed. And then they do something that runs counter to the guidelines. And then we say, did you read the guidelines? And they go, yes. And then, kind candor, read them again, because I think you might have missed something. It is important that we do all of these things. For one thing, they're cumulative. And as we get deeper and deeper into other things, you're going to need to have that in your back pocket. A discussion on IQ tests. We're going to actually broach that, the subject of IQ, intelligence tests, and assessments in general, and how they affect Black and Brown people. A discussion on parents controlling the public schools. There's an amazing podcast called Nice White Parents that talk about when white parents came into and basically took over a Brooklyn school. It's part of NPR and also produced by the people who produce This American Life, Ira Glass and his team. It's amazing. The IQ Test podcast that we're going to be going through are actually part of Radiolab, Judd Abumrad, and it's amazing. We're going to be doing a deep dive into the winning and losing strategies, which I have been wanting to do, but not enough of you have done the preliminary foundational work. I need to be able to do that. I need to be able to do it well, and I need to be able to do it with a cohort that can move deeply and quickly, which is why some of this deeper stuff is going to be chef's table. We'll still give the information at the counter, but the discussion, the deeper discussion, is going to be where I personally feel safe to have it. And you need to hear that. I need to feel safe to present information to you, especially information that's potentially provocative or incendiary. We're going to do a deep dive into trauma and attachment. Bessel van der Kolk, Sue Johnson, Terry Real is involved with that, as well as Peter Kramer. Some of the I think of them as my literary mentors who have influenced me in my thoughts on trauma and attachment, and also addiction to whiteness, because we're going to be looking at whiteness through an addiction model. Relational ethics, Terry Real. And we're going to have a little bit of fun, but it's also going to be work, but it's also going to be fun, but it's also going to be work. We're going to be going episode through The Good Place, now that it's on Netflix and is widely available. And we're also going to be looking at another Netflix show, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, as we look at relational ethics, applied relational ethics, The Good Place, and also trauma and attachment, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. This is important, deep work. We could take any one. I'm pointing over here at where I have things written down. We could take any one of these and do a semester's worth of work on them. And here we are planning on doing this and more in the coming year. It's crazy talk, but we're going to do it, and we need to be in good shape for it. Let me tell you about where I have seen just train wrecks in other spaces. And it didn't have to happen. A lot of unforced errors on the part of communities and unforced errors on the part of leadership. That is one reason why I ask the universe every day to make me a leader worthy of your following me. That's why I have done my best to have the best staff possible and the best leadership team possible, because this community is only as safe and as healthy as we are as a leadership team. You need to see how we love each other. You need to see how we course correct. We did that this past week when I was really reactive in leadership team chat, and we spent a good hour unpacking that 2 days later. You need to see me make mistakes. You need to see me walk them back. You need to see me. You need to see showing the seams. We need to be able to see all of it. You need to see me living out the guidelines every single day, and staff and leadership team. So here's the plan. A bullet point a day. And yes, I can get 10 to 15 minutes out of each and every bullet point. For every one that we do, there will be a concomitant essay or introduction attached to it. So you'll see the bullet point as it is. You'll hear me talk about it if you want to watch the video, and then you'll see me write something new about it. It's 19 bullet points, so that is 19 days. And then we do a wrap up. I want commentary. I want robust conversation on each and every one of these guidelines. We are pushing, you know how I think it's Staples has that easy button. We're pushing the reset button. One of the things that happened this past spring, summer and fall, mostly summer and fall, is that we allowed people, in a good way and in a bad way, to define us and to take our eyes off the ball somewhat. I love the fact that we had that influx. I'm glad it's done. I'm glad we're off of those lists. I'm glad we got the publicity that we got. It was gratifying. I won't lie. It was a lot of fun. There's something about knowing that you're on TV in Canada. But it was a distraction from our work. Jim and Kate, another distraction. Christian left, another distraction. We are here to lessen and mitigate the harm endured by Black and brown people, perpetuated by white people. And let me tell you, some of the things that we wound up doing took away from that focus. Well, we're getting that focus back. We are not going to be a cautionary tale. You can go outside of Les Sunrays and see quite a few of them. We very simply want to be the best space for racial justice and racial equity work on the internet and in print. It's important to me. This is my legacy, and the guidelines are a part of my legacy. See, there you go. Better? Yeah. Okay. Are part of my legacy. And so it's really important that this part of the work that we do, and yes, it is part of the work that we do. It's not ancillary. It's not, I'm going to read the guidelines and then I'm going to go and do the work. The guidelines are the work. The guidelines are to help you to be able to do the work better and more resiliently and relentlessly and more reliably. So 19 days worth of guidelines. I've got my work cut out for me, but I'm here for it. And I hope you are too. I want to see all the comments down here in the guidelines. And the guidelines are there. I want you to give at least a preliminary look at them right now and say, I agree. Or if you've got questions about any of them, it's like, put that down there too. And then day after day after day, we're going to hit the guidelines hard and we're going to have conversations about all of them. And then we're going to have a wrap up. And yes, this is going to be one of the times when, unless I actually see, or my staff actually sees, that you have followed along with every single guideline, there will be a conversation about being able to be in Chef's Table. It's not a no. We're just going to redirect you back and say, you need to look at this. But I need you to be able to look at it now, in the here and now. This is a non-negotiable part of walking with us. This is how we navigate lumpy crossings with a minimum of stumbling and a minimum of shutting down, blowing up, running away, all of these defective, maladaptive strategies that take our eye off the ball. We are just like voting. Remember yesterday when I was talking about my dad and we were talking about Proposition 13? And he said, I don't just vote for me. I vote for you, Jan. I vote for everybody else. The guidelines is a lot like that, a lot like the mask. You're doing it for other people. You are making sure you are as minimal a pathogen as you can. Because, and if you've got 10,000 other people making sure that they're not pathogens, this is going to be a relatively safe space. Safe-ish. I love you guys, and I look forward to doing all the things that are on this list in this Google Doc in the next year and beyond, and even more. Stay tuned because we are going to be talking about the election before Tuesday, specifically about how we do or do not talk to our relatives and friends that particularly are in swing states or who are undecided even this late in the game. And we're going to talk about how the guidelines will guide that discussion as well if we allow them to. And we're also going to talk about that common enemy. I know we think of common enemies as people who come in and are disruptive to the space. We must never, ever stop there. That is not our North Star. Our common enemy is anybody, anything that detracts us from our determination to lessen and mitigate the harm endured by Black and brown people, perpetuated by white people. That is why we're here, not to trade barbs with Jim and Kate, and not to feel as though we're morally superior to the people of the Christian left. We're here to come here with humility and with curiosity and moving the ball forward November 4th and beyond. I love you hard. I'll see you later. Read the guidelines and be ready for me tomorrow.